Hey everyone, it's Connor from Koyfin here. Today I want to give you a mini masterclass in chart design. This video is going to focus on the last leg of chart building with emphasis on how to polish the elements of the chart once it has been constructed. This video is going to be for investors who plan to share the charts that they build, and we'll walk through the customization settings, adding branded logos to charts, altering labels, and which dimensions suit which platforms or formats. For videos on the construction and setting of charts, as well as more practical charting insights, I'll drop a link to our Advanced Charting Masterclass and webinar series in the description. So we're primarily going to be focused on when you've built the chart and you want to share that chart to someone, how to polish up those last little loose edges. The first thing that I'll say, and it's maybe quite an obvious one, is that the color theme of your Koyfin terminal is going to save you a lot of time editing the chart post-production. In the user settings up here on the top right, you'll come to colors and themes, and this is going to allow you to change the color. So you have deep ocean, midnight blue, default Koyfin, monochrome, pitch black, which is my personal preference, and you have old Koyfin as well. So my terminal is pitch black, which means that it's going to automatically adjust all of my charts to have a black background with white lettering. So naturally, you have some settings here on the indicators as well. You see I have PE selected for both. If we click into the settings there, you're going to have a bunch of options here to change the chart styles and types from bar, line to area. Some other data indicators have different styles. In the chart styling line here as well, you can change the colors of those lines, as well as the thickness and whether they're dotted or dashed or solid. You also have the option to transform this data. So if you want to show that as a year-over-year growth, if you're talking about a fundamental data metric like revenue, for example, you can show that in a percentage or a notional term. You can show drawdown data as well. And you also have the statistical bands there as well. So if you want to add means and change the colors of those and the formatting settings, you have the ability to do that as well. That's more related to the construction of a chart, so we won't focus too much on that today. Some other aesthetic changes you can make to these charts as well is all of the icons down here, which allow you to annotate the chart. So you have various things like circles and shapes, which you can change the color of. You have Fibonacci sequences here as well. You have horizontal and vertical lines, which you can change the position, color, and type of. You also have things like the channel, which you can add to a chart and change the color as well. You also have labels and text boxes there as well. So if I want to type in something here, make the font big and change the color to green to associate it with whatever is on the chart, I can do that as well. And lastly, my favorite, you have the option to just simply draw freehand all over the chart. If you ever want to remove some of these things, you can click on them and delete them individually, or you have the trash can icon here, which will just simply remove everything. And then you have the undo and redo buttons there as well. But what we're going to be focused on primarily is how to share these charts and the formatting of the chart that you see once you've built the data set that you want. And what I mean by that is if you want to share this chart with a client, let's go ahead and click the share button here. You can see that we give you a nice template which you can do various things with, and we'll get into these in a moment. But if I hit customize, you have the ability to change that further still. You can change the dimensions of the chart and the size of the labels, the legends, add titles, and things of that nature. You can upload logos as well. But something before we get into this, if we go to axis and background here, you can see I have the option to change the size of the axis styling. If I go ahead and change that to 30, just to show you, it's going to make that a lot bigger. If you have a preference for the size of these labels, if you're sharing charts frequently, there's an easier way to set that up instead of having to edit it in the customized settings every time. And I'll show you how to do that now. So let's click out of this and we'll go to the settings bar here next to the chart. This is going to have all the settings there on the chart, which will transfer over into that share customize function as well. So you can see here that we've got the axis font at 11. If I go into the share customize settings and we see the axis font there is 11, if I change that in settings to 15, it's going to make that bigger on the chart. And when I go back to share, it's going to be 15 now as well. So I don't have to edit that every time. This is particularly important if you're building chart templates because each template you can adjust these settings to a particular style. So things like grid styling and coloring, axis label formatting and legend displays. If I want to remove the name of the security, for example, I can remove that there and you can see it removes from the legend. This will also be removed from the share function. When you've saved these settings in a chart template, it means you don't have to replicate over and over again. So let's go ahead and create a brand new template just to show you what I mean by that. So we're going to call this PE versus mean, and we will save that. And now what we're going to do is type in NVIDIA because we want to show our client or friend or whoever it might be NVIDIA's forward PE versus the mean. So I've just clicked the data series there. I'm going to go back into the settings and I'm going to make this green and thick. I'm going to come to statistical bands and I'm going to show the mean and I'm going to make that a slightly lighter shade of green, make it dotted and make the thickness normal. If you want, you can also put highs and lows in there as well, but we're going to just keep this simple. I'm going to change that to a 5-year time horizon, and there is my chart. Now you can see that this chart template doesn't have a grid in the background. I might want to make some changes here. So let's go into settings. I want the axis font, this axis here on the right-hand side. I want that to be slightly bigger at 18. I want the background color to be black. I want a grid in the background. So we'll go ahead and select that. I'm going to change the color to be a slight gray so that it shows up in the backdrop. I want the legend to be on. You can turn it off, of course. I'm going to go into the legend display here and you have a few options. I'm going to get rid of price value because it's already being shown on the axis. And I'm going to keep the ticker, security name, and data series label in there. For the y-axis label, I'm going to change this formatting so that it shows just the value of whatever data is that I'm showing. And down here, I'm going to change the scale type from log to linear. You can also do that by right-clicking on the axis as well. So now we have our chart. I like this. You might want to turn autosave on so that all of your changes are automatically saved. Alternatively, you can turn it off and just manually save this. The next thing I'm going to do is add advanced micro devices. So I'm going to go AMD, and you can see this doesn't look very great. So I'm going to press this button here on the legend, which is going to open up a new panel. I'm going to pull this up so that it takes up about half and half of the chart space. And I'm going to adjust some of the coloring here as well. So if we're happy with that chart, we can go over into the share function now. And you can see that we give you a pre-made template. It maybe doesn't suit our needs just now, but if we wanted to, we could right-click, copy this image. We could also save it as, we could download it as a PNG. And we have some other functions here, which I'll get to in just a moment. But we want to change this a little bit more, so let's go into customize. The first thing I usually do is adjust the dimensions. So you can see this is quite a long chart. It might not fit in a Twitter post, for example. It might fit in a PDF. If it's on something like a mobile device, it might not be viewable instantly, depending on what format it's been shared in. So if you're sharing this chart in a PDF or a presentation, or perhaps on Twitter or on LinkedIn, I usually like to go for more boxy shapes. So I take 1200 by 800, and this creates more of a square. If you're sharing it mobile first, so something maybe like Instagram, or you want the data to be shown in a slightly more narrow format, you can change this to 1080 by 1080. This is the format for mobile first platforms like Instagram, for example. This will fit snugly into the post. But in this scenario, we're pretending that we're going to be sharing this with a client in a PDF document or maybe an email. So this is 1200 by 800 is going to be the best format for this. So a few options we have here. First, let's go ahead and upload an image. When you click this, you'll be able to pop in a logo like so. You can now see that gets reflected in the top left-hand corner. Here's a slightly version that pops a bit more of a white background. Here you're going to be able to add an image title. So I might want to say something like NVIDIA versus AMD forward PE. We'll save that and it's going to be added to the chart. You can see it's quite small. So let's go ahead and change the size to 35. Now, because we've already adjusted the settings of our chart in the chart itself, we don't really have to do much here in axis and background. In labels and legends, similarly, because we've already set this up in the chart itself, we don't have to duplicate that work. But in this case, if we want the legend to be a little bit bigger, we can go ahead and change that so we can see it more clearly. Perhaps because we've already put forward PE in the title, we can remove this series here as well, but it's entirely optional and up to yourself. So when we're happy with our chart, all we have to do is press done. We can alternatively right-click and copy or save it here, but we're going to go ahead and press done. So the options we have now, we can download this, which will turn it into a nice PNG. We can right-click, copy, or save it as well. This button here will allow you to embed this chart into a website, but just note that the dimensions of the embed are slightly different. It's 600 by 420, so you might have to change the sizing of your legends. You can see they look quite big here. But this is going to allow the individual on your website to drag and use this chart in an interactive manner. And all you have to do is copy the snippet and then insert it into your website once you're happy with the styling. The copy link function is going to allow you to share this template with other people so that they can view it and make changes to it. And to show you what I mean by that, we often share a lot of charts on Twitter and we get a lot of people asking us how to build those. So here we can see NVIDIA free cash flow per share, and it's been overlain with the share price. And below this tweet here, we've added the link to the template of this chart. So if I go ahead and click this, it's going to pull me into Koyfin and give me that chart template, at which point I can save that as my own template so that I always have this view, or I can add in another security and see this view for that security. So if I want to take this chart that we've just built, I can copy this link, send it to a friend or a client, and when they open it up in desktop, they're going to see the same view. So that does it for this video. I hope that's been helpful and will allow you to create slicker charts for sharing with friends, colleagues, or clients. As always, you can drop a comment in the comment section below. You can reach out to us on Twitter at KoyfinCharts. The Koyfin help desk is help@koyfin.com, and feel free to suggest ideas for future videos. Thank you.